and how do you feel it provides and adds value to Monroe?
Well, first of all, thanks, Tom, for the kind words. Education is an important component in any town budget. And as I think most folks know in the small Connecticut towns, the educational piece of the budget is usually the largest single piece. But we also believe that that's one of the things that makes Monroe a wonderful place to live. I mean, we've got wonderful park and rec programs, it's a safe community, we have a great police department, but we also have a fine educational system, and these are some of the things that people look for when they come to a town. The current status of our budget right now is we're at about 4.5% budget. The original proposal made by the superintendent's office and by the Board of Education was 5.8%. And the various boards that inspect that and examine those budget proposals have done their job. They've been very responsible to the citizens and taxpayers in Monroe, and they have reduced that budget to the tune of about $650,000. Now that's a sizable chunk, there's no doubt about it. And we think that in the process we probably lost some items of improvement we needed in our budget. But that has caused us to kind of go back and examine the entire budget again. And although this comes in at what we might call a maintenance or a status quo budget, we've been able to shift a few things with good management practices, so we're still able to acquire a few new things and at the same time cut back in areas. For example, we've reduced the teaching staff by about 3.5 positions because we needed to obtain some new positions. So we did that internally without increasing the budget. For example, if we had a decrease in some staffing needs at the middle school, we took a couple of teaching positions out of there, and what we did as a result is we added a few positions where we needed something critically important. For example, at the high school level where our population is increasing, we needed to put some additional staffing in to the science areas to provide additional biology labs for the students. This is sort of state of the art nowadays, and it was the right thing to do. We've also looked at other things in our budget that needed some attention. For example, we felt that there was a need for some additional reading support at our middle school level. So we have a developmental reading teacher position in at Chalk Hill Middle School. These are some of the things we're looking at. But right now the budget stands at about 4.5%. It's clearly fiscally responsible, and we're going to work as hard as we can to deliver that budget.
And you guys have done a great job on the expense side. Your budget presentations and all the information that you all provide that's up on our web has been just excellent. So I encourage the voters to take a look at that. But when you take a look at Monroe as it's compared to other towns, how do we line up? How do we compare? Because this is the part for me that's the most difficult. I know that we have a great value proposition in our school system. Our schools deliver great services at a very low cost. But what is it that we're missing, and how can that change over time?
Well, the State Department of Education categorizes the different school systems across the state of Connecticut, and they actually break them down and group them into 9 different categories, what they refer to as district reference groups, and they just label them A through I. And the district reference groups, in our case, group about 21 different towns and communities together. And we're in with some powerful and highly competitive school systems. For example, Avon, Cheshire, Glastonbury, Greenwich, Fairfield, Simsbury, Trumbull, Region 9, which is Easton and Reading, and Newtown, to name some of them. And we have to compete with these school systems on a regular basis. And we do very well. We compete very well with all of those towns. And when you compare the amount of spending that takes place of the 21 towns in our district reference group, we fund them at the level of 20th. So we're applying less funds and resources than virtually all of the towns in our district and still getting very fine results. So the taxpayers and citizens of Monroe can really feel they're getting a real bang for the buck and a quality educational system.
How much would it cost, for example, to move us up one step to the, well, I think New Fairfield's a little bit ahead of us?
Yeah, New Fairfield, I didn't mention that town, but that's one of the towns. That's the next one in the listing of towns, in 19th place, if you will. We'd have to spend probably $625,000 just to move up one ranking point in that ERG district. And so it's a sizable proposition, and you know, we know that the town has has monies that they must manage and manage well, and so we're making a reasonable proposal.
Good. How about pressing needs that the school system has, and are you addressing any of them with this budget plan?
Yeah, we're trying very hard to do that with our limited resources. I mentioned already the need for some additional laboratory spaces for biology, in particular at Massac High School. So that's one thing we're looking at. We're looking at increasing developmental reading at the middle level for those students who may not be performing as well as we would like them to be performing. We also have to increase substitute pay. Right now we're paying substitutes to come into our school system $65 a day. That really isn't competitive. Minimally in the region, substitutes are commanding $75 and in some cases as much as $90 and $100. And we compete with all of the surrounding towns for necessary subs for a variety of reasons. So we need to make some adjustment there, and we're going to try to do that. Also, we need to acquire some new textbooks. The board has adopted and has passed textbook provisions in the area of the Spanish and the world language curriculum, as well as in technology, where we're looking to put in some new textbooks in what we call a CAD program. That's computer-assisted drafting. So once the board approves them, we obviously need the funding and the resource to make it happen. So that's another thing we look at. And of course, we're no different than anybody else. We have energy cost needs. I mean, we have to keep the lights on and the heat going in our buildings and the buses running in our bus fleet. And as everyone knows, energy prices have gone up significantly. And so what we're trying to do is manage that all very well. We're taking a good hard look every year at our bus runs to see if we can, in effect, squeeze anything out of that. We're looking to keep our temperature settings at reasonable but low levels in our schools. So we're trying everything we can, and we operate in a consortium of some 80 different towns to get the best possible price for fuel heating, for heating fuel that we use in our buildings.